Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. This is a document from Ariano Irpino. It's the original out of the Register. We're going to get to that. What I had in mind was to show you how to go onto the Antonati website today to find your own Italian documents. That might be pretty advanced for some people. And the problem with doing a general webinar like this, or seminar like this, is that I don't know where people are at. I don't know who's just beginning, and I don't know who's got some experience. And as you were telling me, you've already got some documents, and I'd love to teach you how to go in yourself and find the documents you want. Because the thing about genealogy is the more documents you find, the more documents they lead you to, like a treasure hunt. So how many people here have already started their family tree? Okay. Have you traced it back to Italy? Do you know where your families are from? That's wonderful. So skip a lot of the introductory stuff. And the other thing I'm curious about is I was surprised because the family name that I've been using all my life turned out to not really be the correct Italian name. Yeah. Have you guys found that as well?
Yeah, they got rid of the D apostrophe and put everything together.
Yeah, the names morph quite a bit once they get to the United States. Now, most people think, and I myself thought, it was those darn clerks at Ellis Island. They just didn't know what they were writing down and they messed up all the names. No, actually they did not. They've been maligned for many years, but it wasn't them. Because they took the names off of the ship's logs. The ship's logs were written by Italians in the port of departure. So those names are correct, almost 100%. So if you can find a ship's log for your family, that might actually be your first glimpse of your Italian name before it started morphing. And one of my families, the branches, my mother's maiden name was Abbondandola. It was pretty long, and I thought pretty unique. But as I started doing the genealogy, I realized that when my grandfather and his father came over, some went to New York, some went to Boston, and the brothers and sisters split a little bit. None of them were literate, so every time they gave their name to a public official, it was transcribed differently. I have an entire page of how this name has been spelled over the years. And I can actually look at the spelling of a name and tell you which branch that person belongs to, because they all developed into different names, all a variation of it. And I finally found the correct name is Abbondandolo, slightly spelled differently and completely pronounced differently. And I didn't find that out till I made a trip to Italy and met a relative. And so that's kind of fun. Now I know about the names. So I should introduce myself. I am the librarian. On this table here is a nice selection of genealogy books that you might want to take a look at some point. These are books we have in our library. And for the most part, they can be checked out. There might be a reference book or two. But for the most part, they can be checked out. And in addition, I've brought my family book where I've traced my generation back over 5 generations by using the Italian civil records. It's a little daunting at first, but it's worth learning. It's just a wealth of information. Okay. The thing about genealogy, for you to have a rock-solid tree, you have to start with yourself and painstakingly work back one generation at a time. And to do that, you need copies of birth records. You need marriage records to prove parentage. And you just solidly, those are your building blocks. And you always work backwards. You never say, well, I had a great-great-grandfather and his name was, Angelo Antonio Abbondandolo, and he lived in Taraz. He was born about this year, so this record must be him. That Italians love to name brothers and cousins and uncles might all have the same name. And there might be several that were born in the same town around the same time. So if you're not really meticulous, you can easily get off into a parallel family tree, and your tree won't be based on solid fact. So I would just advise you to be very, very, very careful about that. Always, if you're doing online searches, you might find extracts a lot of times with names and dates and things like that. Whenever possible, look at the actual record. If they have a digital copy of the original image, you want to look at the original record. There's almost always more information there that's going to give you more clues and help you get a better understanding of your family. So always look for that if you can. Now, can I get a survey of what online websites you like? I mean, we know that the big ones are FamilySearch.org, there's Ancestry.com, there's MyHeritage.com. Are you guys familiar with those? Have you done searches on them? Which ones do you prefer? All of, yes. Well, that's a really good answer, actually, because they have slightly different databases. So it's always good to check as much as you can. So you guys already know this. Family Search is free. And I've always defaulted to Ancestry thinking they have more databases. Lately, Family Search has been adding a lot of stuff. I have found information and documents on Family Search that Ancestry doesn't have. And Ancestry is actually pretty expensive.
Have you ever gone to Seventh-day Adventist?
No, I haven't.
That's another one.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for the link to that.
The Mormon Seventh-day Adventist. Mormons have a whole genealogy.
No.
Seventh-day Adventist is not.
Or Mormons, but. Mormons. Mormons, I don't understand it, but it's not anything with religion. The Mormons have
So
a
it's-
tremendous database.
It's
They do.
not-
Well, Family Search is.
Family Search and Ancestry are both LDS.
Yeah.
And actually, we owe a great debt to the Mormon Church, which, it has to be said, because way before genealogy became popular, they were out going to all these countries and digitizing a lot of this material, which is why we have it today. Some of the books have been damaged and lost since. So we're actually very lucky they were doing that. But their hand is in a lot of this stuff. Sometimes you'll know it, sometimes you don't.
If you leave your date that you corrected things, if you think someone were wrong.
Yes. Well, because my family name was misspelled so
they
many
always correct
times.
things.
So I will do that, yeah. Ancestry.com, I don't know how many of you use that. Are you aware that there's a lot of really wonderful free features you don't have to pay? You have to pay to do the searches and look at the original documents, but you can build your tree on there. In fact, I don't want to forget anything, so excuse me a minute while I refer to my notes. I love Family Tree for a number of reasons. First of all, a caveat, the biggest danger is to find someone else who's researching your same family and just copying the information without verifying it to see that it's true. People do make mistakes. Other people come along and get so excited to see the information, they copy it wholesale without checking it. A lot of mistakes are perpetuated that day, so be very careful. Always do your own research. You can use their work as a guide, but make sure you can verify it. It's worth noting that twice a year or once a year, so whenever you can find it, especially Black Friday, they have a big sale. You can get a membership for 50% if you want to try it out. And just a note about the all-inclusive package that includes access to newspapers.com and Fold 3 that has military records. However, it's going to be at a basic level. If you want to get the in-depth search capabilities for those two things, you have to pay more money. So it can kind of nickel and dime you to death, only it's big dollars. Yes.
I'm working out of the Genealogy Society in Santa Cruz,
Yes.
and the Ancestry.com is available during this China virus thing at home. You because.
Oh, through libraries?
The libraries have their
Excellent
library
point.
edition. But if you log on to your library, it's possible that you'll be able to access the library edition of Ancestry.com from your home.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Join your local libraries, even join faraway libraries if they will allow you. A lot of libraries will do that. And they all have genealogy links. A lot of the services can be accessed for free online. You might not get the full features, except now, like you said, they might be making an exception. But you can learn a lot, and it saves you some money. Because this can get very expensive very quickly. Okay, and the great thing about Ancestry.com is it has such a wide audience. You may contact another ancestor, a relative. They might have photos of your ancestors that you've never seen. It's wonderful. When you find those, it's like finding gold. So keep that in mind. You can build your tree on Ancestry. You can even generate family group sheets and pedigree charts from there. And if you want to, it'll get a really wide audience, so people may contact you about your research and share stuff with you. If you want to go to something like myheritage.com, you can easily export your GEDCOM file, import it into the other site, and now you've expanded your audience. So you might make more contacts. Also, I should say, I don't use their bulletin boards very often, but one time I was looking for records for Acri, and I couldn't find them in the Italian database. I posted on the board, and I said, does anyone know how I can get Acri records? This one guy had gone to the LDS Family History Center and had gotten some of the microfilms or something because his family was from Acri. He was a professional genealogist, and out of the goodness of his heart, he said, you know what, I've got all the Acri records, tell me what you're looking for.
Yeah.
He researched Gilda's ancestors. He went way back and found everything that he could. It was fabulous, and he did it for free. You'll find a lot of people in this community want to help each other out. And I recommend if you can help someone do it. It's really nice. Okay. And you probably know about the helpful cemetery bases, databases. FindAGrave.com, BillionGraves.com. Okay, so we don't need to cover that. Always remember to check Facebook for your town of origin. You might even be able to get some people to look up records for you if they live in that
I was
town.
going to mention that I've found distant cousins through Facebook.
Yeah, we actually traveled to the town where my dad was from, where his family was from. And we made contact with people before we went. We got an apartment to stay in. People helped us with the records. The man who was in charge of the civil records turns out to be like my third cousin. So he had already done his whole family tree. and he helped me. He combed the records and did mine for me.
That's fantastic.
And then when I found Antonati, I actually went back further and found records he didn't have. So I gave those to him, and he was really excited.
In Italian or English as well?
Italian. Can everyone here read the Italian documents?
Go see.
That's Well, here's the thing. When I started doing it, I couldn't read them either. But you start with learn the general format, and Family Search has great tutorials on that. And write down a few key genealogical terms like birth, death, appeared before me, father, mother, grandparents, just the basic things. And that will help you a lot. And they will get easier and easier to work with as you go through them. Oh, man, you guys have done a lot of this work. That's fabulous. If you've seen any of the Italian records like I have posted on here, you know that they can be very difficult to read. Capital letters especially are very different than what I'm used to, and a lot of them I can't decipher. What I do is I find the index to the registry that I'm looking at, and I see how that clerk formed their letters. Then you can at least find the capital letters and compare them to what you're looking at, and that really helps a lot. So let's go right to You guys have done Ellis Island searches. You've done Castle Island. You familiar with that? Castle Island is very basic. And the link is on the handout. So let's say we want to do a search.
Excuse me, when did Castle Island exist?
1820 to 1892. Ellis Island opened in 1892, and they operated until 1924. There are a lot of fields here, and I recommend you start with a broad search. So does somebody want to give me a surname?
Morici,
You want to spell that for me?
M-O-R-I-C-I.
O-R-I-C-I.
M-O-R-I-C.
Do you want to try it with a first name?
Antonio.
All right, so let's see. I apologize, I'm not familiar with this laptop. I usually work on a Mac. Here we go. And it gives you, it defaults to a date range of 1820 to 1913. Okay, looks like there's one. So now you have to check your records and see if this is the right one. We've got one that arrived in 1900 at the age of 26, so he was born around 1874.
I had 18.
That's your father?
It's my grandfather.
Grandfather.
And he
I
came
have a record
from,
that he came in 1890, so that's
And
he-
from
this
Agadia,
one-
Sicily.
well, this one came from San Flavia,
another. Yeah, Bagaria,
so this may not be the right person, so you have to check.
he left from Naples, the port of Naples.
Okay. So the thing about the Castle Garden site is, unfortunately, it gives you possibilities, but it's not detailed enough. I haven't been able to identify my ancestors with certainty, but it's good to know, and it might guide you in the right direction. So it just gives you more things to research. How about Ellis Island? Have you done searches on that? You guys want to try a sample?
Sure.
Okay. So this is the page, and again, the link is on the handout. Start your search. And again, you can narrow it down quite a bit, but I find it works, there we go. I find it works best if you keep it broad. Anybody else want to check on a surname?
Put Luigi Borelli. I guess it's with 2 R's. I have no idea.
Luigi.
The last name is Borelli. You gotta put it.
You have to.
This is, I hate not being on my computer. Okay. Sorry for the slow up. Okay.
2 R's.
I think it's
Oh,
2
2 R's,
but
okay.
I'm not sure. That's always the
Yeah,
problem.
it sounds like 2 R's, doesn't it?
2 R's, 1 L.
Yeah, no, 2 R's and 2 L's.
Yeah, that's,
So there we go.
that's how it sounds.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
And this one isn't exact. I think this one we'll find similar. You can actually tweak it when you do your search.
See, that's always the issue. You don't know how it was spelled. There's a Luigi Borelli.
1930s.
Oh, wow,
Do
look
you
at it. You got a
know-
big family.
Do you know where he came from?
Well, either San
How cool is
Sosti or
that?
Beneficado. Is that Beneficado?
Saturn.
Those are the names of the ship.
That's the name of the ship, yeah.
The this here.
You're talking
last place of-
1911, 1912.
This is the last place of residence. So some of them just say Italy. That's not helpful.
No, Beneficado.
And you're saying it's
San-
around 1912.
Yeah,
Italy from Naples?
I think so.
Most of them are from Naples.
Yeah.
Yeah, Naples.
And
Isn't there a problem sometimes in that whoever, if it goes to Asia
yes,
for digitation,
yes.
they haven't a clue on
Yeah.
Italian surnames.
And that's
So
why I spend a
sometimes
lot of time
it's better to
correcting
do
my
a sound-
family's names.
Sounds like, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's way off.
Right.
So I'm not seeing it here, so you can go back to,
Maybe if you cross out the R, maybe it's one R. I have no idea.
I don't think that would,
That
but,
would
but we also can go to a filter, let's see.
What in 1910?
And so instead of an exact match, we're gonna say, sounds like. So it's probably gonna be a lot more results, but you can kind of key in on the date.
It was around 1911, 19.
Well, here's one,
1910.
1910, last place, oh, this is like a big difference.
Why?
This was from
Orillo.
Chilano.
Gorilla.
Morillo.
1913
No,
from Carrasco.
That was Borel.
Oh, these are really different, okay.
These are all
There's
different
only one
things.
name.
Forget it.
Morelle. B-A-R-I-L.
So you can narrow it down some more.
Well, people, that's the big issue. They always spell phonetically.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what, on these ships manifests, it should be fairly accurate, Ken. So it's just a matter of narrowing it down. I'm trying to get to the O's. They're gonna be further down. It could take a while.
Oh, forget it.
But that's how you do a search, and there are different filters, so you can play around with that. It's free. And I don't donate to them regularly because they do really wonderful work, and it's our history that they're preserving for us.
My grandfather came over in 1903. He went back. I can't find his records on Ellis Island. He went back and brought my grandmother over and paid second class, so they didn't have to go through Ellis Island.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Good for them, but they didn't leave the records you needed.
No, and I, can't find, the only thing I know about the 1903 date is that he applied, intention to become a citizen in 1904. I don't know if he ever became a citizen, quite frankly. Because he
Well,
went back.
more and more records are being added.
Right.
So if you weren't able to find it before, keep looking.
Okay.
Because the genealogy is like $1 billion industry. And their gold that they're mining are the records, and they're always trying to get more and add more. So it's always worth going back and checking again. So that is just a basic introduction. Play around with it.
What's the definition?
He came over as a
But he got
gentleman
the money
with his
together.
wife.
Yeah.
And you
The
just
first
walk
and
through
second
it?
class, when the ships came in, the first and second class were let off right away and they just went on about their business. Steerage had to wait. They were held back. They were the last ones off the ship and they had to go through Ellis Island and be documented. Now, Italy maintains a lot of records, also available for free. It's another reason Ancestry, I think, it's not as important as it used to be. I would definitely recommend you build your tree there so that it's visible to the world. But a lot of these records can be found for free if you know where to find them. I gave you the link to Antonati, which is Italian for relatives. Also, you can just go to a search engine and type in Antonati, and you see what comes up is their homepage right here. Antonati.sen Beniculturali, and IT for Italy. And it defaults to English for us, which is good. A couple of pages have been translated to English, but be aware, a lot of the pages are in Italian. That's just the way it is. So let's go to their homepage so you can see what that looks like. Okay.
Well, thank you. I was totally unaware of this.
So if you get a chance to have it automatically translated, I would suggest you try that, but I'm going to do it without, so you can see the page as it is. Up along the top, I want to direct you to the handout because the English will only be there for so long. So I want you to understand a couple of things. The things that we're going to be looking at are find the registries, browse the registries, and find the names.
Okay.
Those are where you look up the records. Now, when it goes to Italian, find the registries is going to be Trova I Registry, just like on there, okay? Search on a name is Trova I Nomi. Browser registries is Svoglia I Registri. Okay, so we're going to start with find the registry. Because let's say you don't really know, Gilda's grandmother came from Galucia, a small town. We know it's in Caserta, but we don't know anything else about it, and we might have trouble finding it the traditional way. So you click on Browse the Registry, and this page comes up. Let me see if I can get rid of this. This is popping up all the time. Okay, there. So the choices are the Institute, and these are all state archives.
That's kind of small. What does that say?
Let's see if I can make it bigger.
Isn't that what, are those little towns or?
These are the state archives. Agrigento, Arezzo, Ascoli, Piceno. So I know that Caserta's on here, but I'm not going to go there. I really recommend you leave a lot of these blanks so you find out, you get better returns, because sometimes you're not going to get any returns. The records are not complete yet. Archival stock, I'm not sure what that is. Oh, do you want them from the Napoleonico era, or from the Civile della Restaurazione, or from the Civile Italiano? And I've given you the dates on that. That Napoleon, when he swept through Italy, we have him to thank for starting the record keeping and making it throughout the country. So we can pretty much go back to 1809 or 1810, which is when he started it.
1807.
Well, sometimes in civil records, if you're lucky, yeah. So the Napoleon era was from 1809 to about 1815 or 1816. The next one was when Italy started unifying, and that wasn't an overnight thing. That happened over a few years. So that is from 1816 to 1865. They were kind of realigning the records, and so that's the Restoration era in the middle. And then the Italian civil records start at about 1866 on. And if you're lucky, they'll come up to 1920, but a lot of them stop far short of that. So when you go into this, you're almost always going to start with the Italian civil records, because remember, you started with yourself and you're working your way back. You don't want to leapfrog. So if we were to go into the recent records, and I'm going to put in Lucio, and we're going to see if there's any records. Actually, you know what? Since there's not a lot, I'm just going to check all, keeping it broad, like I said. And you can narrow it down if you're looking for the registry for birth, marriage, death, or whatever else they might have. I want to see anything that they have. And I'm going to leave the year blank. As you can see, it takes a while. Let's see if I can, there we go. You can see a little dot going back and forth while it's working. It's actually pretty quick. There's only one. So there's not a lot for Galucia, which is why I haven't been able to find documentation. But apri, as you might guess, means open. And this is, always check, there could be a lot of towns of the same name located in different provinces and different regions. So I'm looking up here, and this is with the State Archives of Caserta. So I know I've got the right Galucio. This one is easy because there aren't any others to look at. But you open it up, and then you can look at Well, the basic things are nati is births, matrimony is marriages, of course, morti is deaths. Nati and allegati is good. You know, once you get into it a little more, when people got married, they produced different records and they produced notices that had to be put on the church, either the church door or the door of the civil registry, to let people know these people were getting married. So that if anyone said, hey, you know, I know that person and they're from a different town and they got a family over there. So they, you know, they had like 10 days to look at the notices and put people on notice. And there's even some indexes, sorry. So that might save you some time if you want to look. But let's look at the births. And this is from the early Napoleonic. And they go down to 1865. So actually, Restaurazione, okay. So it's the middle one. But 1865 is a little too early for Gilda's grandmother. So I'm not able to look for her birth record, unfortunately. Are there any towns that you guys might like to check? Or maybe we can just go in and you can see what they look like. Now, I have to tell you, the handwriting is not easy to read. So what pops
Oh
out
my gosh.
is the whole register book, starting with the cover, if they have it, if that's intact, and going all the way down to the last
So
page.
you have to look at each page?
No, there's a trick to this, and I learned this from John Scandizzo, who was our resident genealogist for a long time. In most registries, there's an index, and they put the index at the back of the book. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me as an index, but let's... I have gone so far back on my dad's side. The records were all there. It was wonderful. So unfortunately, these are blank forms, and they're not filled out, and there is no index. So
How far back have you gone?
I've gone back through the civil records, back to find ancestors that were born in the mid to late 1700s, but I can't find their records. I could only find like a death record that tells me they were like 79 years old, so I know they were born in the 1700s. And unless I go back, or unless they publish church records, I'm going to have a hard time finding anything more. So let's backtrack to Galluccio, to all those different types of records. And we can look at indexes. And again, I'm going to go down to the most recent one. And now we're back to 1849, so that's even older. So there's a bigger gap. But I just want to show you what they look like. So this looks like this could be an index here. Here we go. This one's not in the greatest shape. If you click on it, you get a high resolution image. And you can zoom in and out.
With the seal, right?
Look at that
That's
handwriting.
beautiful handwriting.
Oh.
This actually is nice, yeah.
Very quick.
Oh my gosh. On my computer,
Look
it's
at
so
all those
junky. This
Antonios
is...
and things.
So let's take a look at this.
My dad had pretty handwriting like that.
So here's one. Antonio Romanello looks like act number 57, so I don't know where the rest of the index is. And oh my, this is where it gets hard to read. The father's name is I can't even read it. Let's look at
You can
Michele
You can
Fidelli.
zoom.
I can, I wanna keep all
You
of
can
them.
zoom it a little bit more.
This one looks like Michele Fidelli. Can you guys see it okay?
Yeah.
And this says from, Giuseppe is the father, obviously the same last name. And, you see E, A, that's and, Maria Giuseppa Folco. So that's probably a T, because you see the F has a line across it. And it looks like he was born on the 4th of Luglio is July of this year. So what you would do is go back to the year for those births, and July is mid-range, so instead of going page by page by page, you'd look at that spread of pages and you'd pick one midway through. You'd click on it and you'd find out where it was, and you'd know if you needed to go forward or backward.
So, question, when you go back to these records that are quite old, and you see the stuff written, is it in Florentine Italian or is it in dialect, the official records? You're talking about 19th century records, even 18th century records.
The records are in Italian,
Yeah.
not dialect so
Yeah.
much. I mean, there's always, the clerks were people, so you do see variations. But they should be in Italian, because this was, I think Napoleon wanted them to be as standard as possible.
Right. Well, one of my questions is that, there's a couple letters in the dialect that aren't in Italian, and first names in our family is very confusing, because the first names do different spelling in dialect.
Well, the only way to know for sure is to go in and look at them and see how it looks. Like perhaps Sicily's always been a little independent, and so they might have their own way of doing the records. They've never been fond of using the quote proper Italian, so they might do it their own way. But before we go any further, I want to point out that normally these are arranged alphabetically by last name, although some clerks arrange them alphabetically by first name. So if you're looking for a particular surname, you have to go through every letter of the alphabet.
Tony just noticed the one at the top, Diodati, the last name.
Yes.
His niece is married to a Diodati.
And this is Domenica, who had a child named Maria Giovanna.
It's a New York family. Originally, he came from New York out here.
And the father was Sabatino Eode
But that's way back in 1850?
Tadaluca, that's that last name. So the child was Maria Giovanna Tadaluca. The father's name was Sabatino. The mother's name was Domenica Diodati. So if you ever come across those names in the family tree, you'll know this person is related to you.
Better save that page.
Well, she's coming to
Never find
volunteer
that one
today,
again.
I'll tell her.
That's
So-
not a common
You'll
name.
never find
Oh,
that
you'd
pig
be
again.
surprised. You'd be surprised the names you think are unique.
God, that might
All
be-
these families had children and they used the same names over and over again.
Yeah.
They're not really that unique. But the thing to point out is that the mother never takes the husband's name.
Yeah.
If she does, it goes against custom, and she might even be ostracized for it. Because I know a woman who did that in Italy. But she keeps her name throughout her life. The children take the husband's name, but the mother does not. So I don't know if you guys want to go on you want to see if we can find the birth record for this Maria Giovanna? You guys up for that?
Otherwise, you're gonna start over and do everything.
We're gonna actually, we're gonna get deep into this, and I'm gonna show you how to use these records. So the baby's name is Maria Giovanna.
Madeline, you started this one on search the name or search the registry?
This one,
I'm gonna try.
we did the first one, find the registries, and I found Galluccio.
Okay, this one is search the name?
But you can find it through any of these methods.
Okay.
The handwriting there looks like the same person, so it's the person that signs them in when they get on the ship or get off the ship or wherever it is.
I imagine the indexes were done at the end of the year by one person. You sometimes see the handwriting change in the middle of the registry. You know, it might have been a different clerk on a particular day. And it's always helpful to study that person's handwriting.
Beautiful handwriting.
This is quite nice.
Very clear.
So
Very
the
unique.
father is Sabatino, yeah,
Very, very flamboyant.
and the mother is Domenica Diodati. And this baby this is number 56, born on 16th of June. It could be a 4, but it could also be a 16.
Looks like maybe 16.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 16. But the thing is, keep an open mind.
Yeah, the other 4 look like a 4.
So
You do the best you can.
this is, what year were we in? 1849. Okay, it's easy to get lost. So the thing to do is when you go in, be focused, know what you're looking for, and keep notes so you can find it again. Don't just go in and throw in a name and see what comes up, because you're going to get very confused very quickly. So now we're going to go back to the records for Galluccio. We're going to go to the births. We're looking for 1849. There's this little in-between page with a number. Let me use the mouse. Okay, here we go. And we're looking for June. This one is going to throw us off a little bit because it's more than one page of records. So we need to go, successivo is the next page. Ultimo is the last page of the records. This is a small town, probably not more than 2 pages, but let's go to the next one. Okay, and this is the last of it. And so there's 93 images here. So we'll probably,
Find 56, right?
well, no, these are image numbers.
Okay.
They're not the act numbers.
Okay.
And birth records are fairly small, and there can be several to a page. So they don't necessarily correspond. But we're going to start about image 47. Normally, you'll see a low definition image of the page come up. But lately, the last few times I've checked, that hasn't happened. So just click on the link, and here we go. Oh, no, this one is using a full page one.
Look at that.
Let me make this bigger. This is act, looks like 45. And the date that they made the record is up at the top, the 10th of the month of May. So we're off the mark. We're looking for June, but we're close.
May, June, next month.
So I went to 47.
But,
Let's-
month.
It is. But you get more and more adept as you do it. It seems, the first time I did it, it seemed absolutely impossible. It seems so complicated. I thought, I will never figure this out. And next thing you know, you're just breezing along. You're not even thinking about it. You're just hunting these things down.
And it makes a difference if you're working with a PC or a Mac, as
I
well
love-
as your skills.
I love my Mac. Okay, so now, how do we just go to 48?
So is there a regional component to some of the surnames that you find in some areas?
Say that again.
Surnames, you would, is there some surnames that would be very common in one area and not common in another?
Yeah, and there's even a website. I don't have that with me, but you can do a surname search and they'll show you the highest concentrations of where that surname is. Let me go back to the main body. So I checked 50, that was 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try 56. Okay, now we're on Act 54. We're looking for 56, so we're close to it. Sometimes there's extra pages, supplemental pages stuck into the registry, and they make copies of that, and it throws the count off. But we were 2 off, so let's try 58. Here's Act 56. Let's take a good look at this. Okay.
Yeah.
And it tells you the number of this act is 56. L'anno, in the year 1849, on the day of 14, so we thought it was a 16, and now we know it's a 14. 14 del mese de giugno, at the hour ad ore 18, avante di, in front of us, there's 2 people here, the officials are Stefano Gentile, Sindaco means mayor. Well, he didn't say anybody else's name, so he's an official of the civil state of the town of Galluccio in the district of, Gaeta, yeah, that looks like Gaeta. Provincia di Terra di Lavoro, which is land of work, appeared before me, Sabatino Tadeluca. So here we go. Di anni 30, he's 30 years old, di professione bracciale, which I think was a field worker. I've heard a couple of different translations for that. Bracciale could be laborers because it's about arms, strong arms, so could be a general laborer. Domiciliato, and you can see this changes from an A to an O depending on whether the person is masculine or feminine. So if you're not sure if the name is masculine or feminine, look for what they put at the end. That'll tell you. So he's domiciliato in Galluccio. He's living there in Galluccio, who presented a baby, un fanciulla, which is another word for baby. Usually it's bambino or something like that. But you do see local variations of the words that they like to use.
That's a Southern Italian.
Yeah. And so we have seen the baby. And Mr. Tadeluca has declared, let's see, this is another one. This is a baptism. But where's the bird? It must be continued on the back side. There are some variations. So the right column is usually reserved for the church, whether it's a marriage or a baptism. And because the mortality rate was high, they tried to baptize the babies the same day or the next day. So, okay, so it looks like the baby was baptized the same day. And the baptism rites were administered. And here's,
Maybe you better take a picture of it.
Here's some.
Yeah, I would take it.
Better yet, if you give me your email, I'll send you the link if you like.
You'll
I
never
can't do that.
You'll find it.
We found it. We just found it, guys. This is what I'm telling you. You can find this.
Can I take a picture of this?
Oh, absolutely.
She's
But-
coming,
Yeah, you found it.
This
That
is-
don't
this is
mean we're
only-
gonna find it.
This is.
What if she's already
Half
found
page.
I just want to take a picture because she's coming to volunteer in 10 minutes. Diodate's,
Yeah, we're gonna need to clear out soon. We need to look at the
Yeah,
back
you can
side of
maybe,
this.
Madeline, you got about maybe 5-10 minutes for
Yeah.
you.
This is not the whole app, so I want to show you the rest of it.
okay, thank you. Oh God, what did I do?
That's just
So-
I didn't drop
powdered
it, you
sugar.
dropped it.
Did you get it?
Oh my gosh. It's all over your desk.
I need to look at the back of this page, so I'm gonna go on to the next page in the collection.
That's a sweet mama.
Did you do that?
No, you did. Okay, so here's the back page. This should have all the good information that you're looking for. That from the same is born Domenica Diodati, from his wife Domenica Diodati. She is 31, she's 31 years old. She is also a Bracciali, domiciliato, and doesn't say where she's living. It says that she's declaring, well, this is getting a little hard for me to read. I'm looking for, I'm looking
Anna, I hate
for,
to interrupt you, but we're gonna have to start wrapping up pretty soon.
right, yeah, I'm aware of that. I need to finish this up. I'm looking for the Fanciulla il nome di Maria Giovanna, and it tells you up here, Sudetto is written below the month of June. So the information is here at the hour of 13, which is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's a lot of information here. I tried to give you really good instructions no matter which way you want to look for it. I really urge you to give it a try.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. This is so interesting.
I'm so glad you guys have done some work because I thought I might have to scrap all this and get very basic. Now, we didn't even get to Family Search. They do a similar thing.
Did you say that the library has a resident genealogist as well?
It's not.
Right,
You're looking at her.
and your availability,
I'm always available by phone, by Zoom, by email. If you want to come in, contact me and we can set up a time to get together. I love talking genealogy.
I'm just gonna say that some of these old marriage
Fascinating.
records have the parents listed. And
Yeah, oh
witnesses.
yes, they should have the parents
And of
listed.
course, that goes back before any Napoleonic records in my case.
Oh, I
It was
know.
a lot of information.
It's amazing
that
what you
I
can do
had to get
online. It's absolutely amazing.
thank
You
you very much.
remember Lilia Coca,
Well, you guys were a great group.
Good.
Do you give